Florida State is accused of disclosing ACC trade secrets. I think that means television revenue. The ACC is seeking an injunction against Florida State, which bars the school from participating in the conference affairs due to Florida State's ongoing litigation against the ACC in an attempt to break away from the conference and the ACC's grant of rights. What is your takeaway from this whole disaster, and how many years did you spend in law school?
None, but I have read more legal filings.
We were talking about this
year. I've read more legal filings than stories about college football this year, from Florida State to Mel Tucker to Pat Fitzgerald to EA Sports to James Madison. It's nonstop with this stuff. So this one, it was a big hullabaloo when Florida State filed its lawsuit against the ACC last month, challenging the grant of rights, which means this contract that we signed that gives you our TV rights for home games, we feel like we should be able to get out of that. Goes to 2036. Turns out which we reported the day before, the ACC had pre-sued Florida State, saying you can't challenge the grant of rights. Within the grant of rights in the contract, it says you cannot challenge this. So that was kind of start of it. What happened yesterday, not a major step forward, but basically now the ACC is asking a judge, hey, Florida State should not be involved in conference matters while it is suing the conference. It's also seeking some damages and things for revealing the ESPN contract that it has and the details that come along with it, which were rumored, but we didn't know for sure. And now we have a lot of the specifics that we didn't know for sure. Florida State put that in their lawsuit, so it was public like that. Because you remember, it was a whole big thing, the grant of rights. It's a secret. You got to go to ACC headquarters to find it. Turns out that Florida State had given it to a reporter or a fan or somebody who filed a public records request for it and put it up on War Chant, which was the point that I had made when there was a whole secret. I was like, guys, it's public. It's here. Somebody already uploaded it. It's already here. And so that whole thing was weird. And so this is going to be a long process. Hard to say where it's going to go. I don't even think the jurisdiction's been set yet, because the ACC filed in North Carolina, Florida State filed in Florida. It's going to be long. It's going to be ugly. But Florida State is not happy, as we know. They want out of the ACC, as they've made clear many times before. It's just not clear if they're going to be able to. It's at minimum $500 million, and could be more, could get settled down to less. Nobody really knows. But that's the fun stuff.
Chris, what does it mean to be involved in ACC affairs?
Voting on decisions that the conference makes. This was the whole Pac-12, Pac-2 thing, because the idea was, hey, when USC and UCLA left the conference or said they were going to leave, the Pac-12, George Kliavkoff basically said, yeah, we're not involving them in our stuff now because they're on their way out. So we can make votes, we can make decisions on the conference. When it got down to 2, Oregon State and Washington State said, hey, they're all leaving. They shouldn't be allowed to make conference decisions. A judge ultimately agreed with them on that. So ACC is saying, hey, they're suing us. They've inflicted damage on us by revealing these details. While that's going on, they shouldn't be involved in the decision-making of the conference.
Fair enough. Is there anything else that you think is important to that, or should we wrap up the show?
I'm going to look into it further kind of as the weeks and months go by, but where Florida State's going to get the money to do some of this, we'll see. It looked like, according to Sportico, that they finished the fiscal year 2023 in debt, turned a profit last year. So you're going to need if you're going to need $500 million to do this, you're going to need private equity or something like that to come in, which is a whole other can of worms that would be opened.
Mm-hmm.
So Florida State wants out. It's going to do whatever it can to get out. Florida State did sign the grant of rights through 2036. The ACC has said, look, you agreed to this. You can't just back out now because you don't like where it's going. You agreed to this on all these different things. It wasn't a secret. Your president signed it. We've got the signature. It's all there. So I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how the case is going to go.
I just feel like financially speaking, if it costs that much money to go through with all of this stuff, is that more than you're going to be missing out on in revenue if you were to join the SEC or the Big Ten? I don't know the math off the top of my head there, but that's a lot of money.
Right. That's the question. That's why private equity may be involved. Can you make more of that money back if you come out, you join the Big Ten or the SEC? But we don't know for sure that the SEC or Big Ten would invite
What's them? Yeah.
because the SEC network is already in Florida, so you wouldn't get a boost in fees for the network being there. And honestly, North Carolina and Virginia are the schools that are kind of being eyed more by the Big Ten SEC if they come available because they're new states, they're growing states, great academic schools, all these different things. So Florida State doesn't have a home if it gets out. It can't have the SEC and Big Ten are not going to do anything until they're free because then they're going to be looked at as tampering and that opens up another legal issue. So they can't promise them anything until they're free from that. But we don't know where it's going to go. TV revenue is not growing the way it used to be. The SEC is not going to 9 conference games in part because ESPN doesn't want to pay more. And if ESPN's already getting Florida State for $30 million a year, they're not going to want to add it to the SEC for $60 million a year. Like you're paying double for the team you already had. So it's a real mess. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. When you want out of your conference, you usually end up getting out of it, but we've never had one that would be this costly. And so it's kind of unprecedented.